when we're talking about the reality of like buying a new construction, you sit down with the builder. Usually you pick out, all your finishings if you're early enough in that process. What are some reality checks that some buyers will go through when they're kind of dealing with a new construction home?
Let's talk about resale homes. So a resale home, maybe it's 10 years, maybe it's 50 years, maybe it's a 100-year-old home. Mm-hmm. It comes with sort of a different set of pros and cons and a different way of looking at the property. So what do you think about, let's say, the mid-range 10-year-old home? How do you advise your clients on moving forward with that?
Welcome to the TNT Real Estate Podcast, where we spark conversations that set you up for real estate success. I'm Tyler.
And I'm Tanya, and each week we bring you expert tips on navigating Northern Ontario's real estate market. Whether you're buying, selling, or investing, we've got the tools to help you thrive. Tyler, summer is over now officially. Done. It is back to school. Mm-hmm. How are you feeling today after putting your firstborn on the bus?
Awful. No, I'm just kidding. It's been like an emotional week, I think. Like, it's just like so. It's just like he's so little, and it's like weird to see him like get on the bus and go today. But yeah, besides that, it was good. He's very excited for school. We went for our little trip to Manitoulin last week to end of summer trip. So nice. Yeah, it was good.
Awesome.
Do you obviously your kids are older, so do you remember that feeling?
I do. I think we walked the kids to school because we were super close to the school at that point. But yeah, I know it's just kind of this emptiness, a little bit quieter at home with the kids at school. But he's going to come home. He's going to be so happy. He's going to have so much fun. Yeah. And I'm sure you sent him super organized with like an amazing lunch and a great little backpack.
Yeah. That he probably won't eat the lunch, but hey.
Yeah, I know. It's so hard. Oh, it's so different for us now because it's like we're almost at the point where we don't have kids anymore in the house. Yeah. So it's totally different.
Just checking on their meal plans and stuff.
Yeah. 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 Okay. So today we are going to be talking about sort of a decision a lot of first-time home buyers have to make is whether they should be buying a new home, something that's newly constructed, or an older home perhaps. Yeah. And it's definitely a decision that people struggle with. So Tyler, no one size fits all. What do you think about new homes versus old?
The decision really comes down to what they need out of this portion, that chapter of their life. I would say it's kind of all over the place. Like new construction is obviously really nice for not having you move in. You don't have to worry about doing anything for years and years to come. An older place gives you more flexibility. It might require a little bit of work throughout the years that you're living there, but it also is a really great option. So it comes down to what they need out of that chapter of their life.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of especially first-time home buyers, but as you mentioned, it depends what chapter in life you're at. If you're moving into your first home or maybe you're wanting to move up, what are they looking for right away? Do they sort of want to just walk into something that's done, easy to move into, and they can live in right away? Mm-hmm. Or do they want to sort of add value and take the time to do that? Yeah,
it's nice when you're dealing with new construction because you get the chances to pick. Like you can pick your, especially, I guess it depends really what stage it's at. If it's already built, but it's new, then you don't really have a say unless you want to change some things that are going off already. But if you get in at like the lot stage or the foundation stage, you can basically choose anything, and it does obviously change the price. It's not just like in Sudbury you can get a new construction home for $800,000 to $900,000, sometimes even more than that. But it's really okay. This is what we offer for this, and these are all the additional. If you want granite counters, or if you want a paved driveway or stone or something, like it really changes the price on that. But
do you think that that's kind of the most appealing factor of new construction would be sort of choosing everything that you want in the home or designing it yourself?
I think that's the number one reason, besides the whole maintenance, the deferred maintenance stuff. If you just want a nice, easy lifestyle, you don't have to worry about your house for years and years. But I think besides that, getting to choose your own finishings, what you want the house to look like down to baseboards and paint, that's the most appealing.
perhaps there's a little bit of that peace of mind as well, knowing that you have a new home warranty with the property, and that all of your major appliances and major, your roof and your structures are all brand new. So you're going to have probably 10 years on that before they need to be replaced, hopefully.
At least, yeah.
Maybe appliances might go a little sooner, since we know they don't really last all that long anymore. But certainly in terms of the roof and the expensive things, I think that's really appealing for some people to sort of move into something knowing they're not going to have to then add additional funds. But you bring up the important point of upgrades and granite counters and that type of thing that people might want to add. So in that case, the ticket price might actually be a lot higher than what's necessarily advertised.
Mm-hmm. Do you think that is like a big surprise? Like when you're dealing with your clients in new construction, do you find that's kind of like whoa, it's not the price, it's the price plus all the things you want done to it?
Yes. It's been a little while since I've done new construction with clients. I think a lot of my clients nowadays are moving towards resale homes, but certainly there's a big surprise of what's actually not included in a brand new house. Eaves troughs was one of the things, we're kind of surprised about, not having eaves troughs. And there's usually only some sod in the front. Maybe you get a little bit on the sides as well of the easements, but no sodded yard. So you've got no grass, that's an additional cost. Yeah. Fencing, people don't often think about how important it is to have a property fenced and how expensive it can be to have a property fenced as well. Driveway often isn't even paved either. Yeah. So that's another expense. So even though you're not up, replacing your furnace, as soon as you move in, you do have certain things that you're going to be wanting to do. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I find I've you haven't done one in a little while, but when I was doing more of them, even the deck, somebody wanted a good sized deck, but they usually just do the 10 by 10, tiny little thing where you could fit
no
4
stairs,
people on it.
No stairs going down from the deck.
It's more of a balcony, but yeah, there was some surprises, the unfinished basements that most houses come with, and to finish it, this was even a couple of years ago, but it was $50 a square. So if you have 1,000 square foot basement, it's $50,000 right to finish the basement, which is fair. When you're going through and talking, because you are still getting a brand new house, but it is those hidden, I shouldn't say hidden, but extra costs
people don't think about necessarily that extra cost to finish the basement, for example. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Have you ever considered buying new construction, personally?
I think in this stage, because we've owned so many different properties and we've renovated a lot of properties as well. I'm also very particular about neighborhoods that I live in. So I prefer the older neighborhoods, the more established neighborhoods. But certainly I think if we were to do something, it would probably be a custom build at this point in our lives.
That's fair.
I've looked at it sometimes. My house is from the 1970s, so we don't have super tall ceilings, but of course I love our neighborhood. And it's one of those things I always thought it'd be nice to have soaring high ceilings, but do I want to go through that, or maybe live in a new neighborhood where there's no trees? It's under construction. It's very dusty. At this stage of my life, no, I'm done. Yeah.
That's fair.
Yeah. How about you guys? Have you guys thought about new construction?
Briefly when we were first looking. But I think I just like to do stuff to my house. I like doing projects, and we did a whole new kitchen, took out a wall and kind of expanded. And I like living in construction, as awful as that seems to most people. I'm just a sucker for a project, I guess.
There is a certain element of attractiveness, I suppose, though, if you're buying a new construction home. I've had several clients, a while ago when they were buying the new semi-detached homes, we could see those actually appreciating in price before they actually closed on the property. So they had locked in at a specific price on their new construction. And then as the development continued over this, 6 to 8 month period, the price of that exact same model became higher and higher. So there's some comfort in that as well. If you're the first in on a subdivision or one of the first ones in, where you can get maybe a better price than, what your neighbors are going to be getting in the future. And even now we're seeing some of the new construction semi-detached, certainly New Sudbury and South End, where you used to be able to get them under 600,000, maybe in the high fives, maybe just a year ago. And now those same models are 649.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a good point as well, especially when you're doing like the longer builds, like the 5-6 month builds, that you're definitely, before you move in, chances are it's going to appreciate in value. And then you get a house that you don't need to touch for a while. So
yeah, appreciation is not something you can count on, and we always sort of advise against that, but certainly it's nice to know that that's nice little a possibility.
Cherry on top.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, so when we're talking about the reality of like buying a new construction and going through, so you sit down with the builder. Usually, you pick out all your finishings if you're early enough in that process. But what are some reality checks that some buyers will go through when they're kind of dealing with a new construction home?
So some of the biggest surprises can be really associated with the price, the cost for those upgrades, right? Mm-hmm. You might have in your base price of that property a certain line of cabinetry or a certain line of countertops that are, maybe they're the gold line or the silver line, and what you like when you go to the showroom is actually the platinum. So those types of things start to add up. And then, just the elements that you weren't thinking of, like air conditioning, maybe you want to upgrade an electrical service, those types of things that are not included with the base price. Mm-hmm. And I think sometimes people have a hard time envisioning themselves in a home as well. So if you've been lucky enough to go through that model, and get an idea of the floor plan and how that's going to be, and design your furniture and stuff around that, that's one thing. But often people don't get to go into model homes. Mm-hmm. We certainly don't see many model homes now available to walk through as a showroom. That's right. They used to do a lot more. Yeah. That's for sure. Now it's more just like, here's your floor plan, pick from a catalog of 5 different models, and there you go. So sometimes I think people are a little surprised of how the layout actually works for them. Mm-hmm. It can be a little bit challenging. Actually,
I was watching, I don't know if it was Instagram or TikTok or something, where there was this company that actually has like a big open warehouse, and it must have been like a projector screen onto the floor, so you can actually walk through and see like how big each room is as you're like walking over top this like projector on the floor.
That's
which
really
I thought
cool.
was pretty cool.
Yeah. I'm surprised we don't have more like virtual reality and that kind of thing. Like why couldn't we put the models in virtual reality and go through with the VR goggles and actually feel it? Although that can be a little bit weird for some people. Yeah.
I was just going to mention to that, like the fees. I had one that I sold up on Sunrise Ridge, and they like you walk in and it's a new construction house, so it's nice. The kitchen is like this tiny little island that like you can barely sit 2 people at, and like there was only like a certain amount of cabinets. So my clients actually expanded the island, made a nice big island, and did the extra counters to do like their little coffee nook and stuff. But like, it's when you get a, what they call it builder grade for a reason, right? Because it's just like basically the bare minimum. But there are builders, especially around Sudbury, that do the bigger stuff and do the nicer projects. And you can kind of expect that extra touch when you're dealing with those people. But most of the builders are just like, here's the base model, here's a tiny little island just to kind of get you through. And you really have to, if you want the extra cabinetry or extra countertops, you really have to, plan for those.
Yeah. So how do you advise clients then who are maybe considering new construction, whether they're financially ready to do that and actually take on the project of a new construction home?
And I advise them all, like it's a slower process because you really like have to sit down with the builder. And even if it's like the house is half done and you walk through and it's just studs and drywall, it's really hard to kind of envision what it's going to look like finished. But you have to, I always say the first step is like sitting down with the builder or one of their representatives and being like, okay, this is the cost, this is the layout of the kitchen or bathroom, or this is like they're going to have 2 bathrooms finished, but if you want the 3rd finished in the basement, this is what it's going to cost. And then you have to see, does this fit the budget when it's done, or can you live with it for a couple of years and then do the finishing stuff yourself in a couple of years.
Yeah, we see a lot of our clients just getting most of the home finished. If it's a 2-story home or even a bungalow, just getting the main floor done, maybe a small rec room in the basement, and then finishing maybe the 4th bedroom, an extra bathroom on their own sort of years later as their family grows. So that's always an option as well. But then the cost of doing that 5 years from now is going to be higher, certainly, than doing it at the time of building.
I would say the only the one last kind of reality check that we didn't touch on would be the delays. And it's not like it happens often, especially in Sudbury. I feel like when you buy a new construction house in Sudbury, like it's often not a delayed process. But I guess it could happen, like especially when, throughout COVID, when we had, issues getting products and stuff. But most of the time, when they say 5 months, it'll be around, 5 months, 6 months, or if it's already built, even sooner than that. But that's something that could come up. Usually doesn't, especially in Sudbury, but I guess it could.
Yeah. Our builders are pretty well experienced here, so we don't often see those delays, certainly.
Yeah, we're pretty lucky in Sudbury to have some really good builders.
Okay, so now let's flip the script. Let's talk about resale homes. So a resale home, maybe it's 10 years, maybe it's 50 years, maybe it's 100-year-old home. It comes with sort of a different set of pros and cons and a different way of looking at the property. So what do you think about sort of, let's say the mid-range 10-year-old home? How do you advise your clients on moving forward with that?
I think, 10 years old is still basically new, what I would consider as fairly new. So, you still, do your due diligence, but it's nice to see, like you were talking about earlier, like the neighborhood has developed at the 10-year point, especially if you're new. So there are, you do have neighbors around you. You have trees. You probably have a playground down the street. The road's paved and ready to rock and roll. So I don't think it's not a huge thing. I think it's ready to go, ready to move into. Do your due diligence. You can obviously do the home inspection if you feel like you see something that needs to be inspected. But I think it's kind of standard, nice and easy. It's new enough that you're not going to have crazy issues. It's old enough that, the issues that did come and you're a little bit after the warranty, you're probably fine with.
Yeah. It's probably one of those purchases where maybe you choose to do like a 5-point inspection, just an inspection on sort of the major systems. Certainly, your AC and furnace may be getting sort of towards the end of their projected useful life, which is kind of sad to think that they only last 10 or so years now. But that's the case. So maybe you do a small inspection just on those main elements to make sure everything is good. But it's so nice to get into a more established neighborhood where, there's not dust from construction. Driveways are hopefully done. And there's probably a playground nearby, if you have children, and there's certainly more amenities.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so jumping to a 50-year-old home, which is quite a big jump. What would you kind of advise your client about at like 50? Let's say 50 to 70 years.
Yeah. So 50. I love a 50-year-old home. I love older homes, but you have to really be careful. There were different products used back then. Construction standards were different. Nice to have a brick home. Certainly, those are very common. But one of the things we need to look for would be certainly aluminum wiring, early 70s, that type of thing, insulation that may be subpar, or I don't think typically vermiculite is one of those things we see here a little bit in attics, especially sort of the 1950s, 1960s construction, but they don't always contain asbestos. So just one of those things to be aware of. And maybe have it tested if you choose to. So different construction materials, but you can get a lot of value in sort of a mid-century home.
Absolutely. And I feel like, especially comparing that to like a newer build, for the same price, you get a much bigger house. Obviously, it needs a little bit more work, and you're going through, maybe your fourth or fifth furnace, whatever it is, in the 50 years that you've owned it. So it is like a current maintenance thing that you have to keep up. It's not brand new. You can't just sit on it for 10 years, but it is something it's well established. It's in a great neighborhood. Those little trees at 10 years are now big trees and, ready to be cut down or trimmed or something. But I think I'm totally fine buying 50. My house is 70 years old now. So
yeah. I think, we talk about new construction requiring additional funds to be put into like grass and fences and all that kind of stuff. But you may want to look at those same elements at the home that's maybe 50 to 70 years old as well, because you may be getting to the point where you need to replace that fence, replace that roof, and do those types of things. But typically, one of the features that I love about an older home, and certainly in an older neighborhood, in our location, you tend to get bigger lot sizes as well. Wider street frontages, maybe like 60, 65, or even 70 feet frontage on the street rather than your typical 40 to 50, which is more standard nowadays. Yeah. So that's a huge bonus. Okay. So now let's talk about century homes, really, really old classic homes, full of character, full of original features that we love. I love hardwood floors. Creaky hardwood floors are the best. What do you look for when you advise your clients on those?
So I would say when you get to like the 100-year-old stage, I think it's very important to get like a solid home inspection, like a full home inspection. You have to go through with somebody that actually knows what they're dealing with older homes. I find, a lot of the, let's say 100-year-old homes are built extremely solid. So you don't necessarily have to worry about foundation or the structure of the home, but there's, things that, they use, just like the construction material from 50 years, double that to 100 years, and there's stuff that's kind of questionable, newspaper insulation that they used to use between the walls, lead pipes, and you won't even see the lead pipes, but like the plumbing through the road, and like the city plumbing is sometimes in some neighborhoods lead, which is not good, obviously. So it's just like, it's older stuff that you don't necessarily need to worry about, but it's always kind of there in the background, so you should be watching. But I think like you can't beat the character of a 100-year-old home. I'm thinking like driving up McNaughton or Laura Avenue, and it's like unbelievable. Like you almost can't recreate that these days.
No, tall ceilings, the beautiful window trims. Yeah, I love a classic 100-year-old home, but you're 100% right that all those features and all the material they use to build those homes needs to be evaluated. But definitely, yeah. If you can afford it and you can, take that project on, it's definitely something that's worthwhile.
And you were kind of alluding to this, but like expectation, when you go into a new house, when you're showing them a new subdivision, people don't necessarily say, okay, we need to find extra funds to be able to do this, or if they want to do hardwood floors or expand the kitchen, whatever it is. But when you find somebody that's looking for 100 or let's even say 50 to 100-year-old home, like it's almost the expectation that most buyers have, that like they need to have a little bit extra to be able to do work to these houses. So it's kind of like an expectation thing, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
You kind of what you're dealing with when you get into it.
What's nice is sometimes if you have one of these old resale homes and you have a homeowner that's had it for 20 plus years and they've done renovations, hopefully they've kept their receipts and kept all that documentation. That can be super helpful. Yeah. And do the work with permits is always greatly appreciated here in Sudbury. So yeah, sometimes you can buy a home that's been really well maintained and upgraded. And even though it is an old character home, you can get that documentation and be sort of secure in knowing that those elements were fixed. But like you said, you're always looking for, there's going to be something else potentially on the horizon, and just budgeting for that and knowing what you're in for. Yeah.
So how do you personally, when somebody comes to you and say, I don't really know what I want, I don't know if I want to go newer or older, like how do you have that conversation with your clients?
Yeah, I think it's really about showing them the different options within their budget, right? Like let's say, for example, they've got a $650,000 to $700,000 budget. You may go to a new construction semi in town and what neighborhoods they want to be in, right? But let's say they're specifically looking for something in central Sudbury. Let's go look at a few. Let's go look at a brand new semi-D. Yeah. How do you feel about it? Let's go look at a 10 to 15-year-old home. Maybe it's detached or semi-D. And then let's go look at your older homes as well within your budget and see how people feel, right? They walk into something that's 1950s and super dated and they just, don't feel it. Yeah. You understand, move on. You go to something newer,
right?
Go
something new. Yeah.
And I think some people might have the expectation that they do, like, let's say, I love a mid-century modern. When I look at it on, House Hunters or any of those HGTV shows, but then in practice, once they get in there, they're like, wait a minute, look at this, all this shag carpet. How do I even do this? So it depends on the buyer and what their personality is like and what they can take on.
Yeah. I think we were kind of talking about this earlier, but just like what stage of life, like if you are, extremely busy and you have the kids or the lifestyle that you're kind of always gone, it might be a little bit better to go newer so you don't really have to worry about the issues. But if you have, a little bit extra time, or you are a handyman yourself, or you have people that you can kind of draw on, you can go a little bit older and you can get a good deal for the amount of square footage that you're going to buy, and also have the ability to kind of update it to whatever you need it to look like.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely. So no matter which direction you go on, so whether you decide to go with a new construction home or an older home, the key really is to understand what you're signing up for, what you're getting into for the next, 5, 10, 15 years, and do your research, talk to your realtor, go visit properties with your realtor, and ask the right questions, right? And your realtor will help you get those questions answered.
Yeah. Thanks for tuning in to the TNT Real Estate Podcast. If you've enjoyed today's episode, please don't forget to subscribe, comment, and share with others looking to succeed in real estate.
We'll catch you next time with more tips and strategies for navigating Northern Ontario's #1 real estate market. Until then, stay ahead in real estate.